We are shifting now to the research-focused portion of the presentations today, and we will be hearing about present tense morphology in Spanish heritage and second language children by our research team, Ana Fernandez Bilbao, who is not here. She is on sabbatical in Spain, and Julia Hershenson, Professor Emerita, and Stefana Vukadinovic. Did I get that right, Stefana?
Yeah, it's Stefana Vukadinovic.
Vukadinovic, thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for joining us today. We are going to present, as Amy said, this project on present tense morphology in Spanish heritage language and second language children. It's our project in progress, and Anna is actually right now collecting additional data for this very project. And Julia will start with some background information, why we are studying this, and research questions. So please, Julia, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Steph. So as Steph mentioned, we're talking today about research we collected in the Seattle Public School dual language immersion or DLI programs, where we were looking at both heritage language children whose first language from infancy was Spanish, and the children who were second language learners beginning in kindergarten. So we were looking at fourth graders. We'll give you a little bit more of that in just a minute. So heritage children who are not in a dual environment, that is, who aren't exposed to academic Spanish, if you want, have been shown to have some attrition of their skills in their first language because they don't have enough exposure. We also have noted for both adults and children that there is a difficulty for second language learners using verbal morphology. But most of the earlier research on both heritage and second language have been studies of adults. So turning to our DLI programs here in Seattle, we have a number of programs. We were looking particularly at the ones that had 50-50 Spanish and English half the day in Spanish, half the day in English for content classes. And we had in that program both a heritage language and second language children, as I said. Now, there have been a lot of studies, particularly by Thomas and Collier and Thomas, and many more articles by them and others, showing that these programs across the country are very, very advantageous linguistically, clearly, but also academically, so that by the time children get to be about fourth or fifth grade, they are either at a par or above comparable control groups. As I said, monolingual Spanish learning children first learn third person singular and then the other persons very soon. And it's usually in the second year of life. So they're picking this up very, very quickly. The L2 children that we've looked at in the past, and we've actually published a couple of articles already on this research we've collected and we continue to collect, the L2 children are significantly less accurate in present tense, but they are well above chance. So you'll see that they're getting, say, 80% accuracy, which is really pretty high. And Steph will be telling you more about that. So as I mentioned, also the English dominant environment may impact the children if they do not have a sufficient amount of input in their first language Spanish. So it's important that the heritage children have this input in the academic setting. L2 learners, as I mentioned earlier, have difficulty with verbal inflection, making sure that they can use the correct persons and tense marking for the verbs. So this leads us to our research questions, which are the heritage and second language children in the DLI program we've been looking at, are they comparable to controls who live in a Spanish language environment that is a majority Spanish environment in using present tense verb morphology in a spontaneous written production task, which is what we are looking at in this particular instance. And if there are differences between any of the pairs, that is L1, HL, and L2, what aspects of the variability might be involved? So Steph is going to now tell you about our study.
Thank you, Julia. So as it was mentioned, we collected data in English-Spanish two-way dual immersion program, and we recruited 77 participants. 21 of them are Spanish heritage language children in DLI program, 41 Spanish L2 children, and 15 controls, Spanish L1 children born and raised in a Spanish majority setting. They were asked to complete a meaning focused writing task, a letter, an email to a pen pal. So you can see on the screen the format. So this particular participant wrote to their amigo, to their friend. The topic was hola, and usually the participants would cover such topics as they would describe something about their family members, hobbies, the subjects they like or dislike, their favorite colors, food, and they would ask the same from their pen pal. We analyze subject-verb number agreement accuracy, subject-verb-person agreement accuracy, tense, aspect, mood, and thematic vowel accuracy. What we observe is the present tense morphology reveals high level of subject-verb number agreement accuracy for all three groups, and it's colored in blue, so it's 97% for L1s, 96% for heritage language, and 91% for L2s. Likewise, 10, aspect, and mood and thematic vowel accuracy are high for all three groups, and it's colored in green. L2 children were significantly less accurate for person agreement, scoring at 80%. So they were less accurate than both L1s and heritage language children, but still well above chance. These demonstrate the benefit of the DLI program for heritage language maintenance and L2 acquisition. But if we zoom in and look at stem changing verbs, and stem changing verbs in Spanish would be such as tener, querer, jugar, and to give you an example of the infinitive tener, to have for third person singular, it's tiene. So the stem changes, and it looks like it's more challenging for heritage language children and L2 learners, because while L1s were accurate 98% and are sailing, heritage language children were less accurate, 56%, and L2 children less accurate than L1s and heritage language learners. So our findings demonstrate that heritage language children are comparable to majority controls in mastery of present tense verb morphology in spontaneous written production, a fact that we attribute to the continuing input and literacy training of the DLI environment. L2 children are significantly less accurate than heritage language and L1 children. Still, they show relatively high level of accuracy, well above chance, in all present tense verb inflection measures, which confirm the benefits of the DLI for second language acquisition. Considering the difficulty with stem changing verbs, we'd like to propose a classroom activity that we believe is beneficial for heritage language and L2 students. And using a letter to a pen pal from our study, we'd recommend writing a response to, say, Pablo using the following verbs: tener, hablar, jugar, pensar. So again, stem changing verbs, and cover the topics that our participants wrote about. This collaborative writing project is going to be beneficial and will focus on the stem changing verbs that participants should use. We suggest having mixed groups of students that are both heritage language and L2 learners, and each group will be given information about a pen pal, and group members will work together to compose a response and focus on this challenging topic that our data demonstrate that heritage language and L2s have some difficulties with. That's our presentation for today. Thank you everyone for joining. These are our references. And as we mentioned at the very beginning, it's a project in progress. And if you're interested in participating, in our research, please do reach out. We are seeking collaboration with DLI teachers, and we want to collect more data in the DLI environment. Thank you very much, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.